Good evening, or good morning, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to this second webinar about our Masters in Science project in collaboration with QMUL and the Blizzard Institute. Over the course of the next 45 minutes or so, we really want to go over why we've come up with this MSc program. And I'm joined today by Tessa Davis, who's the program director, and Kat Priddis, who's one of the executives for Don't Forget the Bubbles. Good evening and good morning, ladies.
Hi, Andy.
Hi,
Hi, Kat.
Andy. How are you? Hi, Tessa.
Good, thank you. So I guess my first question for you, Tessa, is, when we started DFTB in 2013, we just thought we were going to put our notes online and do a bit of revision. So why the move to actually starting up an MSc?
I work at QMUL. I'm a senior lecturer at QMUL, and we already run an existing online MSc in emergency and resuscitation medicine. And so I'm the PEDS lead on that, and I've been doing that for a couple of years. And we felt at QMUL that there was scope for an online paediatric emergency medicine MSc. And so I've spent the last 18 months or so putting it together. And I think the collaboration with DFTB is so good because DFTB has expertise in delivering online learning and using the tech, delivering it in an engaging way, delivering it in a way that relates to our clinical practice. And so we thought that this would be a great collaboration, and that was essentially the start of it. And it's been a long process, but it's exciting to be able to start this in September this year.
And how long is the master's program going to be?
So the master's program is going to be, and also just to say to the people who are watching as live, you can post questions and we will see your questions as they come up. It's not just the three of us talking, we can see you, so please chat, comment, and we'll answer your questions. So the course is a 3-year course. So if you're doing the full MSc, you'll be doing it over 3 years, and it's part-time and it's all online. If you could stop after the first year and get a PG cert, and you could stop after 2 years and get a PG dip. But if you want to get the full masters, you do the whole 3 years.
So, doing a full master seems like a huge commitment when a lot of us have got full-time jobs. Kat, you've been doing a master's program through QMUL. How are you managing to fit it into your home life?
So it is easier than I thought it would be. So I'm doing a master in trauma sciences, and I'm doing it part-time, and this particular MSc runs over 2 years, so it's a little bit fuller than the DFTB one. I think it's a bit more packed in. At the end of the day, a lot of it is just about really being opportunistic and taking the chances to just get the material in when you can, and that's actually doable if you're just a little bit thinking ahead and planning when you're going to do your lectures, and being quite strict with your deadlines, I think, and saying, actually, I'm going to finish this week's material by the end of this week, because if you start to fall behind, then it can become sort of more of a challenge to catch up, I think.
Yeah. So given that Kat's MSc is plugged in over sort of a 2-year program, Tessa, the DFTB QMUL one is going to be over 3 years. How is that different? What's going to happen in each of those 3 years?
So it's essentially the first 2 years is made up of modules. So there's 4 modules in each year. So 4 modules in year 1 and 4 modules in year 2. And each module runs for 8 weeks. So you're doing 4 8-week modules. And then in the 3rd year, which is the final year of the MSc, it's a scientific paper year. And that means that you essentially write a 3,500 word paper that is worthy of publication in a journal. It doesn't have to be published in a journal, but worthy of publication in a journal. And you also develop an oral presentation that you would deliver at a conference, so a conference standard 20-minute presentation. So that is how the course will run over the 3 years. So we've tried to mix up different styles of learning and assessment and delivery to try and make it practical to what will be useful for you in your career.
So, at DFTB, we've been going for 7, 8 years now. What would be different than a scholar reading through our 1,067 blog posts that we've got? What content would they get that was different?
So it's different because it's organised through a formal structure of having level 7 teaching and education. So it's much more structured. We've specifically crafted it to meet learning outcomes. It's mapped to the paediatric emergency medicine curriculums of the RCPCH and RChem. So, and it's essentially using level 7 standard learning, which is probably slightly different to what we do at DFTB, which is more thinking about practical applications to your practice, so more knowledge translation. And we've kind of tried to, with the QMUL PEM MSc, we've tried to combine both of these. So we're meeting the level 7 standards, and what that means is that you're thinking about how to evaluate the evidence, how to read it and understand it, how to synthesize it, and essentially get a deeper understanding of critically appraising the evidence so that you can then apply it to your practice. Thank you, Tara.
I mean, this sounds great.
Glad you think it sounds good.
And so, is this something that's just for doctors, or is it something that anyone can do?
So there's admission requirements. It's definitely not just for doctors. So we're hoping that it will be, we've designed it to allow entry requirements for across the disciplines, because I think that will enhance the community and the learning that we can do from other people. So it's a global program, so there should be people from all over the world and people from different specialties. So with the entry, I won't bore you with the exact specifics of the entry requirements, but they are on the QMUL website. But the entry requirements essentially for doctors is that you need to have at least a year of post-registration training in PEM, EM or critical care. And nursing, you need your degree and 2 years experience of PEDS, emergency or critical care. We've got paramedic entry criteria as well, and physician associates. So these entry criteria are a guide, and we have a way to consider other people's situations. If, for example, you didn't do an undergraduate degree for your nursing training, but you have the clinical experience, then you can still apply, and we would then discuss each case on a case-by-case basis. So I hope we will have a broad range of people joining from all over the world and with all different experiences, because that's what will be able to enhance the learning.
And Kat, obviously one of the things we want is this sort of collaborative community, something that we're very proud of at DFTB. How do you think that those of us sort of in the DFTB end will be able to help sort of increase that collaboration?
So I think one of the really fundamental changes in how we learn since the coronavirus came along is that a lot of these courses that previously might have been face-to-face have gone virtual. And actually that can be a tremendous asset in terms of engaging with people, because that means that I can engage with someone in Australia as I'm speaking to you right now. And I've just lost my camera feed. I'll just carry on. I'll just answer your question first, and then I'll sort that out. So I can engage with you in Australia via this virtual platform, and we could have a topic about the evidence surrounding bronchiolitis. We can talk about how we manage it differently in the UK versus Australia or versus any other country. And that is, I think, the only way we can sort of spread our knowledge acquisition across the globe. And we are now interacting on a global platform. Social media has done that for us, this level of interaction. And that is a way for us as faculty and the DFTB team to get involved in the MSc, to share our learning, to share the new things that we're coming up with the MSc students, so that they can get really up-to-date evidence, really new ideas coming across, and we can share that in real time.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's something that we're really proud of. What we do at DFTB is really being able to share knowledge across hemispheres, across countries, and across time zones. And one of the big challenges in the past is we all learn in silos. We learn what we do in our own local hospitals, our own local practice. And I guess that by getting involved with this program, it may be something that we can actually learn from each other. And I'm sure the faculty will be learning lots from the scholars as well at the same time. So Tessa, we said we're going to be launching this hopefully later on in the year. Where should people look for more information?
So we've got information up now on the QMUL website, and what I'll do is, I know people are watching on Facebook and YouTube, so I will post the links now underneath. They've been posted on the Twitter feeds as well. So that has detailed information about the course, the assessment, and the structure. I know we're going to cover a bit of that now as well, and also you can connect and apply to the course there as well.
Okay, so let's talk about the structure. Let's take it year by year. So, if you just want to do that, grad cert right at the beginning, what are people going to be doing that very first year?
So I've just posted the link on Facebook. So in the first year, it's going to be 4 modules. So the modules in year 1. So we start with a fundamentals of research module, and that's essentially to give everyone a good grounding of what the expectations are for the course, to be a reminder or upskilling if you need it on how to go look at papers, read them, critically appraise them, and synthesize that information. So that's really so that everyone then for the rest of the learning will have good setup on how to do that. And then we've got 3 other clinical modules during the year. So we've got the first modules on the neonate and the adolescent, or the neonate and young infant and the adolescent, and we're covering a range of PEM presentations to thinking specifically about these groups, because we know that these groups are different and have different challenges, and also different evidence base and frameworks on how to manage them. And then we've got a module on the child with respiratory or the cardiovascular problem, and then neurological or hematological problem. So we're covering some core topics in the first year. So that would be what you would do if you want to do the PG cert.
And then obviously when we go on to the second year for the diploma, what are we adding to the course?
So there'll be another 4 modules in year 2. So it's a similar structure, so 4 8-week modules, and that's the child with surgical or gastrointestinal problem. We've got the child, we're covering then derm, renal and endocrine emergencies, and then we're looking at the critically ill child is the 3rd module in that year, and then the child with trauma. So at the end of that year, we'll have covered the core curriculum of the core PEM curriculum of the UK colleges. I'm just going to put up a comment there from Esther, because it's a nice comment about paediatric nursing. And I do hope, thank you, Esther, and I hope, I'm sure we will, because I've spoken to people who want to join the course already, but I hope that we get good nursing input to this course, and it will definitely enhance the learning for everyone to be able to have that multidisciplinary input. So thank you. So please do share with your colleagues.
And I think it's worth being mindful that, as part of the faculty and the teams coming up with things, it's not just doctors coming up with some of the core content, just like DFTB, we're proud of our sort of nursing and ACP's involvement in our paramedics. We want to make sure there's content for everyone in the course that's pitched obviously at the appropriate level. It's the level 7 learning. One of the challenges I think is we have at the moment, as Kat said, is this sort of move to asynchronous learning rather than synchronous, doing things all at the same time. How are scholars going to be able to interact for this course?
So I have tried to develop the course with that in mind, because I know we're all working various shifts, life commitments, people are doing it around their jobs, and so it's going to be mainly asynchronous learning, and the modules are heavily based around moderated forum discussions. So in the modules you'll get clinical questions. So you may get a clinical question, for example, you've got 8-month-old with possible bronchiolitis who's come into ED with SATs of 87% and working hard. And the question is, how do you decide about management? Should high flow be an option? How will you use the evidence to help inform your practice? So that might be an example of a forum thread. And then there will be a discussion. That will be the core part of the module is the students then thinking about that question, going away, looking at the evidence, analysing and evaluating the evidence, and then posting back within the context of their clinical practice, which of course may be completely different where I work to where you work, Andy, because it will depend what you have available, or someone in a different country. So you can take the evidence, you can use that and apply that to your own clinical practice, and then you'll post back on the forum your comments, and that will be moderated, because the faculty will be involved with helping to direct the discussion, but also the other students will comment and read your answers, and the idea is that between us all, we will develop a solid evidence-based discussion around clinical questions. So all of that is going to be entirely asynchronous, and there'll be multiple questions for each module. There will be one synchronous element, which will be DFTB's input, which will be hourly live streams, kind of like this, but for 6 weeks of each of the modules in the first 2 years. And so these will run once a week. They'll be on for an hour and people can join live. They don't have to join live, of course, just like this. It will be recorded and people can watch it afterwards, but it gives you an opportunity to communicate in a more synchronous way where we can have more immediate back and forth discussion. So that's the goal. So I hope that it will be very flexible for people to be able to work around their time. And also that I know that, there'll be some weeks where you might be working nights, or you might take a holiday, which is a thing that people did before COVID. So that's fine. So it's not like if you miss a week, you're in trouble. You have time over the module to catch up. And so that's how we've designed the course.
Thanks, Tessa. Kat, you're doing some of your MSc at the moment, sort of in that sort of asynchronous fashion. What advantages have you found, with related to sort of a home and work life?
I think if I'd had to go and attend a physical lecture at a set time every week, there is no way I could have done an MSc. It just would not have been compatible with working in A&E, with Peds A&E, and also with having kids. It just wouldn't have happened. But actually, the fact that the lectures are all available and you can access them at any point during the module is so useful. It means I can do a lecture on the train. It means I can do a lecture in the evening when the kids are down, or even in the morning when they're watching a bit of TV. You can sit in the corner with your headphones in, just cracking through some of those slides. And it's that flexibility that makes it actually feasible. Without that, it would not be possible, I don't think. And I think that applies as well, absolutely, to the DFTB PEM MSc. That flexibility, that asynchronous learning is vital to be able to get through the material.
So Andy, I'm just going to mention this comment from Kathleen. So she said when you click to apply on that website, it takes you back to the same page. So I'll check that out, Kathleen. But the course is advertised subject to approval, which means that you can actually apply just now, but they won't process the applications until it's gone through all the final stages of the university approval, which I think will hopefully be in April, I reckon. So I don't know why that apply button isn't working, because I know there's a number of people that have submitted applications already. So I'll find out how they've done it. So you can submit your application now and you'll go in the queue, and then when it's gone through that last approval stage of the university, then they'll start to be processed kind of in the order that they were submitted. So I hope that helps, but thanks for spotting it.
And Tessa, are you going to be capping the number of people who can apply to do the MSc?
So we are, because it needs to be, because we're doing this asynchronous learning element, and we want to be able to have meaningful forum discussion. I don't want it to get too overwhelming. If there's 60 people discussing on a thread, it would be difficult for that to develop, or we'd certainly need to change the plan. So for the first year, we're going to keep the numbers reasonably small. So I think, I'm not sure what the exact cap is. It's probably going to be somewhere around 30 students, and it will be processed as the applications come in. And then I guess in future years, if we find that we want to increase the numbers, we would look to do that for the year after, but we will put a cap on the first year.
Thanks. And what we haven't covered is actually how much it's going to cost.
Yes, so cost-wise, so the costs are on that website link. I'll just look them up. So doing an MSc is not cheap, as Kat will know. So this is in line with standard QMUL fees. So it's £5,900 per year over 2 years. So it's essentially £11,000 to do the MSc, and it's more than that's for home students. If you're overseas, you're going to be paying £22,000 to do the MSc. If you're doing it as a postgrad cert or postgraduate diploma, you basically pay a third or 2/3 of these fees. So if they're home students, it'll be £11,000 for the total cost of the MSc, and then you would pay a third of that, which is around £3,000 to £3,500 for the postgraduate cert and £7,000 for the postgraduate diploma.
So it's a good job I kept my EU passport then.
I mean, I think I'll leave that to the QMUL admissions people to work out. So I will not be getting involved in that. So Helen's just posted a nice comment, Helen Nightingale, so thank you. Yes, it will be flexible. I know we all have clinical jobs, so it should, obviously there's a time, you are going to have to make a time commitment over the year, but it's not going to be heavily focused on 1 week as opposed to another week to try and accommodate whatever you need to fit into your life and work.
And is it possible that someone could just choose to do the second set of modules rather than the first, or do they have to do them in the order that you've designed them in?
Yeah, so you can't. It's something that we will, I hope we'll develop in the coming years, but you can't. They're in a fixed order. You have to do them, and you would have to do the first year to do the PG cert. That's what the certificate includes, and then you would have to do the second year as well to get the PG dip. So there isn't an option to do that.
And you said that obviously to do the masters, that final year is essentially coming up with, some core material that will hopefully really enhance everyone's knowledge of pediatrics, and that's going to be assessed. But what's the form of the assessment going to take in the first 2 years?
So there's going to be different forms depending on which the modules are. So each module has an end of module assignment, which will be worth the majority of the marks for that module. And that will be a range of either an essay, so it would be like a 1,500 word essay. It might be short answer questions. It might be a critical appraisal of a paper. And then the second assignment in each module is going to be like a mid-module assignment, which will be worth less of the marks, but that is going to be something like create an infographic, develop a 5-minute presentation, or record a 5-minute presentation. And the idea of these, or write a blog post. The idea of these is to think about the knowledge translation element, so how to communicate your evaluation and critical appraisal to your peer group, like DFTB does all the time, and trying to develop some of these skills around infographic design, about presentation development, slides, and how to deliver a good message. So these are the core parts. And then the third year is different. I mentioned it at the beginning, but you're basically writing a scientific paper of 3,500 words at journal publication standard, and an oral conference presentation standard of a 20-minute presentation. I'm just going to bring in...
When you say an oral conference standard, do you mean our conference or someone else's conference standard?
Well, you don't have to present at a conference, but I think the key of what we're trying to teach with the skills, the blog posts and the presentation assessments during the course, is how to do that in a meaningful way that is not just putting content out there, but actually thinking about how to engage your audience. So I hope people will gain something from that. I'm just going to answer Hadia's comment. Why is overseas always double the cost? Is that fair? So this is not my personal setting of fees, but that's what universities do. But actually, there is a reason for that, which is that the UK government subsidises and matches funds for every home student who does a course. So you get the fees, but the university also gets the government funding as well, whereas that's not matched from overseas fees. So that's the reason. So I know it seems harsh. It is the way it is across all the universities, unfortunately.
And it's the same in here in Australia as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's one of those things. And is there an option for doing the MSc part-time, doing it over a longer stretch of time than just the 3 years, or taking a break?
You can take breaks. I would need to check with Chris, our admin person who knows the exact numbers, but I think you can take 1 year out, possibly 2 years out. But after that, you would need to stop and take the degree at whatever level you got. So you can take breaks, but it's not. And you can take a break for a year at any point. You can decide to do that, but it's not the kind of thing where you do like one module now, another module in a year, and another module in a year. You have to be in, and then you take the break, and then you come back.
And just a reminder for our audience, if you have any questions for Tessa or Kat, or for myself, remember to put them in the chat box and we'll answer them for you as soon as possible. So it sounds very exciting getting on involved in doing this, but does this mean that DFTB are going to stop providing free open access medical content? Tessa?
No, DFTB are not going to stop providing. So DFTB does loads of stuff, that's not going to change. But I think this is an additional thing that DFTB's expertise, and also even just the style of delivery, the way that DFTB thinks about how to connect with clinicians is what enhances the collaboration, because what we've got is QMUL, which is an established, hugely respected and valued university delivering formal education, and DFTB, which is hugely respected deliverer of informal education. And I think it's a unique collaboration to have these two together delivering a course, and I think that's really going to add something. And it's a perfect match. So I hope that it will work that way, and I'm really excited. I know some people who may be watching have applied already, so thank you for taking the step of being the first cohort, and I think it'll be great to see how we get on and evolve things over time.
So Kat, once you finished your trauma masters, are you going to go and sit and do the PEM masters straight away afterwards? We can have a little break.
Absolutely. Why would I not? I'd do two at once, but I think I might crumble under the stress. No, I think it sounds excellent. I really do. I think it's a very, very exciting MSc.
And so I've got a question for both of you. Obviously to get through to the stage when we're paediatric emergency consultants, for example, we've already done postgraduate exams, we've done college exams. Why should we do this on top of that?
Kat, you can probably answer why you did yours.
So I chose to do an MSc because I wanted to take things essentially to the next level, and I just about finished my training in pediatrics. I had done all my exams, I'd done all my courses, and I wanted the next thing. Essentially, I wanted to carry on learning, to carry on developing, and to make my practice the best it could possibly be. And so that's why I chose to do an MSc. And I think that as a pediatric emergency medicine consultant, there is definitely still that role for us to learn. We learn every day, don't we? Every single day. Science is constantly changing. We're constantly learning new things. And so there is this wonderful opportunity now to have that all sort of presented nicely. And that's, in a way, an MSc is almost a lazy kind of way of learning, because you're going along and you're being given all this tremendous information and tremendous knowledge that's coming through. And alternatively, you might have to go away by yourself. You might not know where to look. You might not have the ease of knowledge exposure. So absolutely, why not? And then a PhD afterwards. I'm just waiting for the DFTB PH options to come along afterwards.
One step at a time. I think it's good to, isn't it? It's having some dedicated time for your own learning as well, and that being not just a quick in between, patients, whatever time meetings, but actually some time where you need to focus, sit down and think about how we really make sense of the science that is being produced and apply that to our practice. And that is, like you say, Kat, it's professional development, so it's making ourselves better. I think also, depending on your level, it will help as a something on your CV, particularly for people who are interested in working in peds emergency, because I know that it's competitive, not for grid, but also for consultant jobs. So to enhance your CV, but also to enhance your learning and to enhance your network, because we're going to have a group of dedicated healthcare professionals who are all interested in learning about PEM, all getting to meet together and chat, and so I think all of these things are good reasons to do the course.
And I think the other thing to mention is, obviously, when you're doing your learning on your own, it's very much guided by what is in the journals and what's hot that week. And it's you spend a lot of time, Tessa, curating a curriculum that covers the breadth of pediatric emergency medicine. So it's going to cover the things that we don't really spend a lot of time on. So the hematology, the gynecology, all those things that traditionally get missed out in normal formal teaching in the workplace or in the journals.
Yeah, I think a lot of the adolescent stuff's really interesting as well. And I know, Andy, we've talked a lot about how that's missing from our general training and curriculum. And although that's changing, actually thinking about, there is an evidence base behind how we can manage adolescents better, and it gives people an opportunity to learn and take a deeper dive into these. What are the frameworks? What should we be doing better? And plenty of the topics that we just avoid because they don't come in that often to ED, and when they do, we can find someone else to see the patient. So I think it'll, like you say, the topics that you can easily avoid learning about in your clinical practice because you can get away with it. Actually, you're going to be confronted by having to spend time on these. And I think also with the self-directed learning, it'll vary, because if you've got expertise in hematology and oncology, you're not going to need to spend as long doing your study in that module. Whereas if you come to a neonatal thing and you know less about that, you may spend longer. So I guess you find the same, Kat, when you're doing yours. It's not like you're always doing the same amount every week. It'll be flexible according to your previous experience and your knowledge. Have you found that, Kat, when you've been doing yours?
Absolutely. And again, and that comes back to the point about having all different kinds of healthcare professionals undertaking an MSc. So I, for example, found like the critical care aspects a little bit easier, but the pre-hospital stuff, that really tied in with the paramedics' experiences on the course. And so, yeah, absolutely. There's some modules where you can do a little bit less because just more from a baseline. But actually, I have found that even stuff which I thought I was really familiar with, there's still really new stuff coming through that I've never heard of. And that was really exciting for me to find that there's still stuff you can learn that you haven't heard of before, even when you've got sort of quite a way into your career.
Yeah. Oh, Andy, sorry, I know we've probably covered most of the stuff we want to talk about, but I've just realised that we haven't talked about the faculty. So the faculty is still in the process of being formed, but essentially, so I can't kind of announce specific people, but essentially it's going to be a broad range of QMUL and DFTB's extended network of experts in PEM, of educators and enthusiastic online educators. So you can rest assured that it will be it's not going to be just me. There will be an expert faculty with a range of subspecialty interests that will be delivering this course, so it should be excellent.
And Tessa, you said each sort of the first 2 years are sort of 4 8-week modules. How much actual work is expected to be done in terms of hours would you expect it's going to take per week?
So there is a recommended, there is a recommended hours, which I'm just looking at, and each module is 150 nominal hours. But that's kind of notional study, so that's based on self-directed learning. So that would be 150 hours over the 8 weeks. So the total course over the 3 years it works out about 600 hours a year for 3 years. But again, that's gonna, like I've said, that's gonna vary. I don't know how much you're spending on yours, Kat, but I guess it will vary. So the actual hours required on the forum will depend on your contribution, and also how much time you're spending reading and writing your material, and plenty of that time includes time for your own learning, reading, and digesting the evidence. So it would vary, but it's the QMUL guide is 150 hours for each of these modules, and 4 modules a year.
And I found the same. I'm doing working my way through my master's in medical education, and you do find that the weeks where you're free and you get to do a lot more, and you have weeks where you can just you can throttle back a little bit because you know the stuff, and it was something you're very familiar with, and it does sort of ebb and flow with your working needs. So it's not as if you have to be doing 20 plus hours every single week whilst you're on a run of nights, for instance. There are ways around that for all of these sort of courses.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just to bring this to a close now, so we're going to be, or sort of QMUL and DFTB are going to be launching officially the page, hopefully when the final consensus agreements come through in about a month or so. But people can still access the website now and get a lot more information around the costs and hopefully start that application process. If you had to sum up in sort of 1 or 2 sentences why you think people should actually do the DFTB QMUL MSc in Paediatric Emergency Medicine, Tessa, what would it be? What would your elevator pitch be?
This is
telling
going
Henry
to,
is the
this is going to be the best online peds emergency medicine postgraduate degree. It's been designed exactly specifically to deliver online for people across the world to adapt to where you work, what your resources are, and how your timing is for your week. So it's a perfect combination of the uniqueness of DFTB's delivery and the uniqueness of QMUL's ability to deliver high-level postgraduate education. It will be an exceptional learning experience, an exceptional networking experience, and it will make you a better clinician at whatever discipline you are in. So please do consider it. You can email me as well. So I'm at tessa.davis t.davis@qmul.ac.uk. And you can actually start the application process through the website, and you can submit your application, and we'll start going through them in, as Andy says, in a month when the final approval process has gone through.
And Kat, in just a couple of sentences, why do you think someone should do an MSc?
So I think the option to have continued learning, but also to have it in a way that you can engage with, to really enjoy learning just for the sake of learning and not to just tick a box, to explore cutting edge science, new science, things that perhaps you weren't even aware of. And it's a sense of community. And we have an online a tutorial once a week. You get to chat to people, you get to share ideas, and that's very much embedded in the DFTB PEM MSc as well. And sharing those ideas with people, especially on a global scale, it's a fantastic feeling, and it really makes you a better clinician. Absolutely.
Thank you. So obviously we've given you the email address where you can find out a little bit more information. And if you want to get a sense of what our educational style is, why not come along and join our trauma course that's going on later on this month on the 17th and 18th of March. Just head to dftbdigital.com for further information and sign up, and you'll get a much better idea of how we like to educate and how we can make you better at looking after children. Tessa, Kat, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks.